Good day and welcome to Mosaic Wellness University class number 3. This is Dr. David Harper, your wellness coach and host. Mosaic Wellness University has two main specific values. The first is our overreaching value that your life matters. The second is that Mosaic Wellness University is a place where what you learn may save your life. My objective for Mosaic Wellness University is to just save lives. The information you receive in university classroom format just like this, the resources, the activities, the challenges, even the products and services we will recommend are here to help you be healthier next year than you were this year. Again, if there's anything you hear from me over and over this year, it will be that your life matters. If you believe that your life matters, then you will do the things that are necessary to protect and to preserve your life for a lifetime. So why am I teaching these classes? Because this country's healthcare is declining every year, and I cannot stand by and watch it happen anymore. So the real solution is to empower you, the people, to know how to make the decisions that you need to make to protect your life and to preserve your life. Ultimately, the solution, therefore, is not to get sick. But to not get sick, you need to do things proactively, not reactively. You can't wait to not get sick after you're sick. If you're going to try and prevent sickness, you've got to do it from the beginning. Tonight, we will talk about how exercise fits into a balanced wellness plan. We will focus on cardio aerobic exercise, muscle strengthening, stretching, and core exercise. If you think that you already know everything about this topic, buckle yourself in, because if you've been out of the loop for the last couple of years, the fitness world has been set on its ear, and everything we thought we knew and accepted has been turned upside down. Is it ignorance or is it apathy? Let's talk about exercise. How many of you think that exercise is necessary for health and wellness? I think most people are like you. They know that exercise is important. They just don't do it. That's not ignorance. It's apathy. People don't care. Your life doesn't matter. You're behaving one way, but you're saying another. If you currently are not exercising regularly, I hope that something we say tonight will give you a reason to care. In a recent survey, there's a disconnect. 11,000 obese people were tested on a telephone, were asked in a telephone survey, and 40% of the obese people claimed they did vigorous exercise at least 3 times per week. That's a disconnect. Either the people in the survey were lying, or they have no idea what vigorous exercise is. Maybe like this person walking your dog, they must be worn out after this kind of a workout. Sedentary lifestyles are unnatural. Our forefathers, unless they were royalty, worked to grow, hunt, and gather their food, build their own shelters, and walked everywhere. Their life consisted of exercise in order to survive. Today, Johnny Six-Pack sits back at work and comes home to sit all night in front of the TV with an occasional walk to the refrigerator to get another beer and another bag of chips. Statistically, only 15% of North American adults engage in regular vigorous activity, and 60% report getting effectively no exercise at all from a regular or sustained leisure time activity, and that's from the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2001. Thousands of studies have shown a direct relationship between the lack of exercise and coronary heart disease, hypertension, cancer, diabetes, osteoporosis, anxiety, and depression. So is exercise necessary? Listen to what one health expert said when he was asked the same question. Exercise is as important as vitamin C or breathing or love or anything else. Exercise must be seen as a nutrient, a required nutrient, and an essential nutrient. Exercise is needed to drive the many chemical reactions in our body and to allow our immune system to work properly. Only exercise will pump lymphatic circulation in the body. Without this, blood clots from sedentary living can lead to the potential for strokes or other types of problems cardiovascularly. It is your lean body mass, your lean muscle mass, that primarily determines the setting of your metabolic rate and your utilization of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. Have you ever known someone who had a high-performance car like a Ferrari or a Porsche? If those cars are driven around town and never run at higher RPMs and higher speeds, their engines will not perform well. We are the same. If we are not pushing exercise to our limits, our bodies will not perform well. For example, someone confined to a bed and can't get up, what do they usually die from? Pneumonia. This is because their lungs are not operating well and ventilating properly, and their immune system can't function because there's no movement. Muscle movement moves lymph fluid through the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is primarily identified as that idea of saliva. You basically have three different types of fluid. There's the blood, there's urine, and there's saliva. Different types of exercise. The first type of exercise is cardiovascular exercise. It used to be called aerobic exercise. Jogging, using an elliptical machine, and walking briskly are all examples of aerobic exercise. As you get your heart pumping, the amount of oxygen in your blood improves, and endorphins, which act as natural painkillers, increase. Meanwhile, aerobic exercise activates your immune system by moving lymphatic fluid through the body. It helps strengthen your heart muscle and allows the heart to pump blood more efficiently and increase your stamina over time. Strengthening. Muscle development or strength training is done to keep your lean muscle healthy. You need enough exercise repetitions to exhaust your muscles. The weight should be heavy enough that this can be done in fewer than 12 repetitions, yet light enough to do a minimum of 4 repetitions. It is also important not to exercise the same muscle groups every day. They need at least 2 days to rest to recover, repair, and rebuild. Well-trained lean muscle is critical to lifetime weight management. Core training. Your body has basically 29 core muscles located mostly in your back, abdomen, and pelvis. This group of muscles provides the foundation for movement throughout the entire body, and strengthening them can help protect and support your back, make your spine and body less prone to injury, and help you gain greater balance and stability. In another class, we will teach you simple core exercise program using the core ball that will keep you from injuring and re-injuring your spine. Stretching. Stretching works with your body's natural physiological makeup to improve circulation and increase the elasticity and flexibility of the muscle and ligaments that protect your body's joints. It stretches tendons, which are at the ends of the muscle, ligaments, which connect the muscles together, connect the bones and the joints together, and joint capsules that hold the fluid in the joint. This allows your body to retrain its flexibility and maintain and prepare for daily activity or more vigorous exercise. The last one here is balance. Body balance exercises improve an individual's equilibrium. It is performed with a core ball, a wobble board, or with exercises done while standing on one leg. Balance problems are prominent in older populations because of decrease in strength and proprioceptive levels, which is a sense of body awareness. It helps you understand where you are in space, and even when your eyes are closed. Body balance exercises improve equilibrium because it increases strength levels and improves proprioception. Research has shown balance exercise training lowers the number of falls in the elderly. So why cardio exercise? The main purpose of cardio exercise is to strengthen your heart muscle and circulatory system, optimize your immune system through muscle movement, like moving the lymphatic fluid. The side benefit of cardio exercise is that it promotes the natural production of growth hormone, which keeps you young. Cardio can be walking, jogging, running, swimming, competitive sports, cycling, anything that gets your heart rate elevated for a sustained period of time. So how do you know if your workout is hard enough? How much cardio is enough, and how do you know if you're working that hard? The American College of Sports Medicine and the American Heart Association both recommend 150 minutes of cardio exercise per week. That's 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, or 21 minutes a day, every day. How do you know if you're working out hard enough? Scientists have developed a formula to measure the appropriate level to exercise for your heart at your age. It's called the target heart rate. There are several formulas for determining your target heart rate as a range, but let's use a real simple formula, and each of you can determine your target heart rate number. This number will be the average of your target heart rate range. The formula we will use is 220 minus your age times 0.7. Now what do we do with that number? Now that you know your target heart rate, check your pulse or heart rate regularly as you exercise. An easy way to do this is to count your heartbeats or pulse for 10 seconds using your watch. Then multiply this number by 6 to get your heart rate. You can feel your heartbeats in several ways, such as placing your fingers lightly but firmly over the inside of your wrist or on your neck just below the angle of your jaw. Your target heart rate is the maximum level you want to reach during your workout. If you can reach your target heart rate and keep your heart activity at that level, you will get the most out of your workout. If you are not reaching it, your workout might be too light. If you go over your target heart rate, then your workout is too vigorous for your fitness level, and you'll need to pull your workout back a notch. So when is the best time of day for a cardio workout? In my opinion, it is early in the morning before you eat breakfast. Because there are minimal nutrients in the bloodstream in the early morning before you eat, the body goes directly to using glycogen stores in your muscle. Your body uses glucose first and then converts glycogen to glucose and energy. Interval training. Pumping up the volume. Some of you may say, I'd love to get in more cardio training, but I need 30 to 45 minutes and I can't fit it into my schedule. Or I can't get up early enough to do cardio in the morning before work or school. What if I told you that you could actually get an effective cardio workout in half the time? Or what if I told you that you could burn twice the amount of calories in the amount of time? You can. It's called interval training. It's not as complicated as you might think. Interval training is simply alternating bursts of intense activity with intervals of lighter activity. Take walking. If you're in good shape, you might incorporate short bursts of jogging into your regular brisk walks. If you're less fit, you might alternate leisurely walking with periods of faster walking. For example, if you're walking outdoors, you could walk faster between certain mailboxes, trees, or other landmarks. One of the earliest supporters of interval training was Dr. F.R.C.C.S.S, the author of PACE, Rediscover Your Native Fitness. In his book, he explains the research behind his program, which promotes a 12-minute-a-day interval training regime. He explains that man was never made for endurance exercise training such as marathons, but was designed for short bursts of intensive exercise, followed by rest, such as the hunters of old. And he backed up that with research. His main 2 points were: number 1, interval training better trains your heart and prepares it for stress. And number 2, interval training is better suited for fat loss. In experiments with identical twins, one twin trained 45 to 120 minutes a day for endurance training running marathons, while the other did his 12-minute interval training program. Blood tests following the workouts consistently showed that the endurance long-term exercising twin had worse cholesterol, triglyceride, and C-reactive protein tests than his interval training twin. The conclusion of the twin studies was that interval training was better for building up your heart muscle and more realistic in preventing heart attacks because interval training requires short, high-intense demands on the heart. The second part of the research contradicts what most of you think you already know. Which twin would burn more fat? The one who runs 45 to 120 minutes per day, or the one who does a 12-minute interval training program? It is theorized that initially when we begin a workout, we burn up the stored glycogen in our muscles first. Depending on the intensity of the workout, it can take a few minutes to half an hour to use up the glycogen. After that, the body gets its sugar from breaking down fat in fat cells, and fat begins to be burned up. Blood glucose first, then glycogen, then finally fat are burned for energy. Here's what scientists think is happening. If you do a short, high-intensity workout and burn up all your glycogen and then rest, your body then begins to replace that sugar, continuing to break down fat until your muscles are ready for the next high-intensity exercise. This breakdown of fat to sugar to be stored as glycogen in the muscle has been shown to last as long as 24 hours. However, if an endurance runner uses up all his muscle glycogen in the first 30 minutes and now must turn on fat-burning machine to create more and more sugar while the runner continues for another 30 minutes or longer, a lot of fat is burned during the exercise. But when the endurance athlete finally rests, the body senses the need to replace a large amount of fat that has been consumed and begins the process of storing more fat for the next long-term exercise. Cardio exercise is mainly to benefit the heart. So let's look at what the research tells us about cardio. In 2002, in the New England Journal of Medicine, a highly reputable journal, the authors of a study which looked at hundreds of other studies on cardio exercise wrote that there is, quote, an inverse relationship between aerobic power and risk of subsequent heart attacks, end quote. In other words, the greater your cardiovascular training is, the less your chance of a heart pain, a heart attack, or even a fatal heart attack. Here's what we now know. There are hundreds of studies showing how cardio exercise benefits the heart and prevents heart disease, but look at the numbers. According to a Harvard study, men who ran for an hour or more a week lowered their risk of heart disease by 42%, and that's from the Journal of American Medical Association in 2002. So why strength training? Cardio training is about strengthening our heart, but what about strength training? Why do we want to strengthen our muscles? First of all, we do that in a number of ways. Weightlifting, stretch and strengthening bands, calisthenics, kettlebells, etc. The purpose of muscle strengthening is to increase the strength of your muscles. Increasing strength means that you build your individual muscle fibers. This has some huge benefits. The first is increasing your body's muscles, or your lean muscle mass means that your muscles require more energy every minute, every day, 24 hours a day, whether you are awake or asleep. The amount of energy we consume is what we call your metabolic rate. The higher or more optimum your metabolic rate is, the more energy you consume and the less fat you store. The second benefit of strength training is that studies show that people who do strength training regularly are less likely to become disabled with age. And number 3, cardio and strength training increases the production of growth hormone in the body, which slows the aging process. And who doesn't want to slow the aging process? Both our physical appearance and our physical performance can be improved by muscle gain or hampered by muscle loss. Research indicates that unless we strength train regularly, we use about half a pound of muscle every year in our lives after age 30. Unless we implement a safe and effective weightlifting program, our muscles gradually decrease in size and strength in a process called atrophy. Lifting weights is therefore important for preventing the muscle loss that normally accompanies the aging process. A common misconception is that we reach the age of senior citizens, or when we do, it is normal to stop being active and to start using ambulatory aids like canes and wheelchairs. Many people think we have no choice. They think this is normal. But this couldn't be further from the truth. There is absolutely no reason all of us can't be physically, mentally, socially, and sexually active, living a healthy, vibrant life until our last day on earth. The reason many elderly people rely on ambulatory aids and become slower and fatter is simply that over the years their muscles have been wasting away, so their physical performance and metabolism also decrease, becoming less efficient. Look at this Dr. Bob in 2008 at the age of 89. He looks like he could be in his late 50s or early 60s. Look at the muscle development, the lack of body fat on this gentleman. Unbelievable. Now women, I often hear it said that, hey, we don't want to do strength training because we don't want to get big and bulky like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Don't worry, the good news is it can never happen. Women don't have the testosterone levels required to get that big unless you inject it, like the lady on the right. Let's discuss what a high metabolic rate means to you. One of the many advantages of strength training is that it increases lean muscle mass. A greater lean muscle mass positively impacts the efficiency of our metabolism to burn calories. Here's an example. 2 women both weigh 150 pounds. Woman number 1 has 36% body fat and 98 pounds of muscle. Woman number 2 has 22% body fat and 118 pounds of muscle. The one with higher muscle mass will burn more calories. So even though the 2 women are the same weight, the one with a higher muscle mass will be able to have a higher calorie intake than the other women while maintaining their weight. This is critical. If your goal in strength training is weight loss, then there's something you need to understand about strength training. There are 2 types of muscle fibers in the body. Type 1 is slow twitch used in cardio exercise, and type 2 is fast twitch used in resistance training. What does this mean in plain English? Well, what it means is if you want to burn fat 24 hours a day instead of only while you are exercising, add resistance or weight training to your program. Dr. Wayne Westcott, PhD, conducted a study in which 72 overweight individuals participated in an 8-week exercise program. The participants were placed in 2 groups. The first group performed 30 minutes of exercise on a stationary cycle. The second group performed only 15 minutes of exercise on the stationary cycle, plus an additional 15 minutes to equal the 30 of weight training exercises. At the conclusion of the study, the endurance-only group lost a total of 3.5 pounds, as you can see here. 3 pounds was fat and half a pound of muscle. On the other hand, the endurance and training group on the far right over there lost a total of 8 pounds, with an actual fat loss of 10 pounds and an increase of 2 pounds of lean body weight. Gang, strength training is the key to any weight loss program. In case you didn't understand what I just said, here it is again in graph form. You've got the weight in pounds that are lost, so you see the difference between the endurance training and endurance and weight training group. There was an increase in the red indicated on the right. There was an increase in the amount of fat that was lost, and there was an increase in lean body mass. There wasn't a loss of body mass as there was in the endurance training. You don't want to be losing weight that's lean mass. You only want to lose the weight that is the fat mass. Okay, now this slide's a little bit busy. It's a little bit challenging to understand, but stick with me and hopefully I can make sense of it. Because there are a couple things you need to be able to understand if you have or will be starting an exercise program. Exercise requires an increase in specific nutrients in order for your body to function optimally. Let's look at the production of energy for muscles to work. Muscle cells can get their energy from carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, but prefer to use glycogen that is stored in the muscle fiber cells. Glycogen enters a cycle that ends with the production of ATP, which the cell uses as its energy source. And you'll see that here at the end, down at the bottom, just by that little purple globe in that second blue diagram. ATP is the final energy product and the final step in the conversion of ADP to ATP. In fact, 95% of the body's energy is produced this way. In order to make that conversion, an enzyme is necessary, called coenzyme Q10. It can be synthesized by the body if we eat the right foods or we get it directly from some foods, but without it, energy systems in the body will not work properly. One common effect of coenzyme Q10 deficiency is heart failure. Exercise and poor diet can produce a deficiency of CoQ10. Meat and fish are the richest sources of dietary CoQ10. Vegetable oils are also quite rich in CoQ10. Within vegetables, parsley is richest source, but broccoli, grape, avocado, and cauliflower are modest sources of CoQ10. If you're doing a regular medium to high intensity cardio or strength training, then you need to make sure that you're getting sufficient CoQ10. Okay, this slide here is a slide that explains how we actually increase our strength. Because when you do strength training, what you're doing is you're forcing the muscles of your body to adapt to lifting heavier weight. This process causes a normal, natural, microscopic tearing of the muscle fiber from the exertion, which is the top diagram there on your left. As the muscle is repaired, the result is an increase in the size of the muscle fiber and strength. So the middle picture there in the slide shows muscles repairing, and the bottom picture on the slide shows that the repair has been completed. So if you're doing regular medium to high intensity cardio or strength training, then you need to make sure that you're getting sufficient protein and some specific essential amino acids to make a new muscle protein, as well as omega-3s to help develop these enhanced neural connections to the muscle. And we can talk about, here are some examples here, and we have some other ones that we can talk about. If you email me at drdave@mosaiclifecare.com, that's drdave@mosaiclifecare.com, or if you call the office at 905-629-0688, we can make some good recommendations for you. Okay, guys. So as we have seen, an exercise program is critical then to creating optimal health. When we study the blue zones, where large groups of people who live to be 100 or greater, these groups have two things in common when it comes to exercise and longevity. Number one, they walk everywhere. Some are walking 6 miles a day up and down hillsides to get from one place to another. Most of these cultures are growing their own food and work in their gardens and farms every day. Exercise will not only help you live longer, but will help you avoid serious health problems, so let's look at some research. Exercise and diabetes. Okay, so here's a study that you should know about. It's called the Diabetes Prevention Program, or DPP, and it followed thousands of people who were pre-diabetic over a 3-year period and compared the rate of people who became full-blown diabetics. Group 1 got a placebo, Group 2 got metformin, an oral diabetic drug, and Group 3 started a diet of reduced fat and calories and an exercise program of 150 minutes per week. The result of the DPP study was that the diet and exercise group had a lower incidence of diabetes by 58% over the placebo group and 29% over the metformin group, and that's from the New England Journal of Medicine. Physically active women can reduce their risk of breast cancer by 25%. From the Breast Cancer Research Journal. When we evaluate the relation of vigorous exercise to breast cancer among women who were of normal weight, the risk among women reporting the highest amount of vigorous activity decreased by 30% compared with women with no vigorous activity. The studies showing the connection between exercise and breast cancer keep piling up. From the Canadian Cancer Society researcher Dr. Christine Friedenreich, 23 of 35 studies conducted to date show an increased risk of breast cancer for those women who are physically inactive. So what about exercise and colorectal cancer? Researchers at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis and Harvard University combined and analyzed several decades worth of data from past studies on how exercise affects colon cancer risk. They found that people who exercised the most were 24% less likely to develop the disease than those who exercised the least. A study in Taiwan found 83% less colorectal cancer in men who exercise, as opposed to sedentary men. What about exercise and asthma? The conclusions of 13 studies on exercise and asthma show that, quote, although exercise can trigger asthma attacks in some patients, scientists found that those who exercise regularly increase their ability to take in oxygen and improve their ventilation, leading to better cardiopulmonary fitness, end quote. Another study from 2010 concluded that 30 minutes of aerobic exercise at a moderate to vigorous intensity on 3 days of the week can lead to significant improvements in asthma control. What about exercise and depression? In one study, which involved 80 adults aged 20 to 45 years who were diagnosed with mild to moderate depression, researchers looked at exercise alone to treat the condition and found that, quote, depressive symptoms were cut almost in half in those individuals who participated in a 30-minute aerobic exercise session 3 to 5 times a week after 12 weeks, end quote. What about exercise and brain function? Do you think increasing blood supply, oxygen supply, and nutrient supply to brain tissue through exercise might be beneficial to the brain? Sedentary lifestyle is associated with lower cognitive skill. In a study of 2,300 women, 65 years of age or older, high levels of physical activity reduce risks of cognitive impairment by up to 50%. What about exercise and osteoporosis? Exercise can reduce and prevent osteoporosis, but the type of exercise makes a difference. Researchers have found that there is an increased bone density in women who do resistance training. Resistance training may be even more effective than cardio training for increasing bone density and preventing osteoporosis. Is it ever too late? A small study out of the USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University in Boston enrolled 10 frail, 90-plus-year-old nursing home residents in an 8-week high-intensity resistance training program. 9 of them finished the program, and those 9 experienced an average gain in strength of 174%. Their thigh muscles increased in size by 9%, and their walking speed increased by 48%. Leading the researchers to suggest that even the very oldest among us may benefit significantly from resistance training. Why stretching? Flexibility is accomplished by maintaining muscular and ligamentous elasticity through stretching exercises. Stretching does not only improves flexibility, but improves balance and prevents joint injuries. But there are different types of stretching. Static stretching consists of stretching a muscle or group of muscles to its farthest point and then maintaining or holding that position. Dynamic stretching involves moving parts of your body and gradually increasing reach and speed of movement, or both. Do not confuse dynamic stretching with ballistic stretching. Dynamic stretching consists of controlled arm and leg swings that take you gently to the limits of your range of motion. Dynamic stretching improves dynamic flexibility and is quite useful as part of your warm-up for an active or aerobic workout, such as dance or martial arts class. You are familiar with dynamic stretching if you have ever watched track and field events. Some of the most common dynamic stretches in these athletes are high knee walking, butt kick walking, arm and shoulder circles. Bouncing during static stretching involves trying to force a body part beyond its normal range of motion by bouncing and jerking. Bouncing during static stretching is never appropriate. What is the new research that has come out on stretching? The first thing is that warming up and stretching are not the same thing. Stretching is not warming up. It is, however, a very important part of warming up. Warming up is quite literally the process of warming up or raising your core body temperature. It is very important that you perform a general warm-up before you stretch. It is not a good idea to attempt to stretch your muscles before your muscles are warm, something which the general warm-up accomplishes. Number 2, warm up before stretching. A brisk walk or treadmill or elliptical machine for 5 minutes is usually sufficient for a warm-up. Number 3, always use dynamic stretching before a workout, not static stretching. Number 4, static stretching before a workout does not prevent muscle pain or risk for injuries. A study of 1,400 runners, generally that have a high level of injuries, divided the runners into two groups. One group did static stretching before running, and the other group did none. After 3 months, 16% of both groups had injuries. The numbers were identical, indicating that static stretching may do nothing to protect against injury. Static stretching before an athletic competition actually decreases performance. And remember, static stretching is that long hold and prolonged time spent in an endpoint stretch. Static stretching involves, again, holding body parts for a length of time. Contrary to popular belief, static stretching before a workout is unlikely to prevent injury and may even increase the risk of injury, as well as having a negative effect on athletic performance for sports requiring physical strength or sudden explosive movements. Muscle power may be diminished for up to 30 minutes after static stretching. There is a reflex called the stretch reflex that prevents the muscle from being stretched too much. This reflex is activated by static stretching, inducing the muscle to become, in effect, tighter in self-protection. This sets up opportunity for greater injury and decreases performance. In research, an athlete's vertical jump was lower after static stretching than when no static stretching was done at all. Number 6, do static stretching only after a workout or competition. And number 7, never stretch to the point of pain. Now we need to have a little bit of a discussion on what joints are to understand what we're talking about in terms of stretching. So joints occur wherever bones are connected to each other. Ligaments are the fibrous, slightly stretchy connective tissue that holds one bone to another in the body, forming a joint. Muscles are the elastic, contractile tissue that moves the joint. Ligaments control the range of motion of a joint and stabilize the joint so that the bones move in the proper alignment. Joint injuries are common and frequently occur in the spinal column, shoulder, elbow, wrist, knee, and ankle. Injuries to the ligaments heal slowly because ligaments have a very limited blood supply, making repair and healing prolonged. Joint injuries occur when, number 1, muscles are not strong enough to control a movement. Ligaments then become the last line of defense in an attempt to prevent injury. And when muscles are not flexible enough, then the muscle reaches its expandable limit before the movement is completed, and there is injury. About 90% of the time, ligaments, when damaged, including the spinal disc, will heal on their own in due time, but it is beneficial to provide the body with the raw materials needed to repair the tissue. Here are a couple different examples. And we have other examples that we can talk about in the office if you're interested. I'm often asked for exercise, diet, and nutrition plans by patients that fit their particular needs. The most common plans are for weight loss, building and strengthening muscles, and pre- and post-exercise. We have examples of these, and if you're interested, then we can actually help you with these dynamics. There are also some downloads that are available with this month's program that can help you with that as well. If you have any questions, again, please email me at drdave@mosaiclifecare.com or call the office at 905-629-0688. So an ideal exercise workout should consist of some type of dynamic that may include these: cardio at least 150 minutes per week, as indicated by the research that we've talked about. Strength training, a minimum of 1 set of 8 to 12 repetitions, each of 10 exercises that work all the major muscle groups to fatigue, done at least 2 to 3 times a week. And again, if you have any questions, we can talk about these on a personal basis. Just call or email me. And before, after stretching needs to be done, and core needs to be done 5 minutes a day. So here's the challenge. First of all, create an exercise schedule. Consider getting an exercise partner or joining a gym. Track your exercise in the exercise log that is accompanying these modules. Buy a pedometer and begin observing how far you walk each day. And there's some nutrition here that we can talk about. These are some examples. We have others to help fulfill and to manage the needs that each person might have in terms of their own M.O.S.A.I.C requirements. Guys, it's a pleasure to be serving as your wellness coach and your host for these modules in this M.O.S.A.I.C Wellness University program. Enjoy this. Again, you have access to these and you can look at them again and again. Download the various attachments that you'll find with these particular programs. If you have any questions, we're here to serve and to help you achieve your best results. It's all for helping people not get sick. We're here to serve. Greatest love and appreciation for your perseverance through this program. You're doing great, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.